So there's a lot of things that I'd like to do more in my life and work less. I feel like that's the only lever that I can kind of dial back in order to extend those things. Because let's be real, in a even with a great set of benefits package.
There is a new American dream. One that doesn't involve working till you're 65 before you start enjoying life. If you're someone looking for ways to regain control over your time and check off that bucket list now, you're in the right place. We share tips from experts on investing, personal finance, and mindset so that you can finally have the freedom to work less and live more. This is the Freedom Investing Podcast with your host, Kris Toribio.
What's going on, everyone? This is Kris Toribio with the Freedom Investing Podcast, and I'm so excited you're here to join us for another amazing episode. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our latest episodes. Moving on to today's guest, we have Tyler Blackwell. Tyler is a medical physicist and real estate investor. Together with his wife, Tyler has spent the past several years investing in real estate as a means to achieve financial and time freedom. He is currently in the process of transitioning from W-2 work in medical physics to focus on investing. Tyler, welcome to the show, man. Before we dive into it, give us a quick 2-minute rundown of who you are, your background, and where you are in your journey to achieving time freedom.
Yeah, hey, thanks for the great introduction, Kris. I mean, to be honest, it's a tough question right now because I think you mentioned that I'm currently in a point of transition. And, a lot of times when we say, hey, this is who I am, the focus is on what we do for a living. And so I'm kind of going through that transition right now. But I think, in the past, I'm a medical physicist. I'm a father to 3 great kids, a husband to my wife, Hallie. And in the past, yeah, just as you mentioned, we have been kind of making steps in real estate investing and things like that to try to transition from medical physics into kind of a life of freedom. So wherever that takes us, if it's more in investing, if it's business, that kind of stuff, just to try and enjoy life a little bit and spend time with family.
I love that, man. And congratulations in your transition from W-2 to investor. We just recently, myself, I work as a nurse anesthetist as my profession, and I just quit my W-2 2 weeks ago to transition into 1099. So I understand the transition there. It's quite the leap, and I'm excited for you and what's to come for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, in the medical field, it's quite tempting to stay, right? These are fun, challenging, and interesting jobs. And so, what's the reason to leave? You've got oftentimes a nice salary, some respect from your colleagues, and sort of from the community at large. And so, there's even during the transition, there's been points where I've kind of thought, is this the right move? I mean, yes, we have the ability maybe to move on. But now with this identity set, and now with this decent income, is there a reason to go? So I congratulate you on sort of making your transition. So yeah, it's a tough decision to make, but anyway, I'll follow your lead and probably do the same thing.
Thanks, man. Absolutely. And here's the thing, right? Like, as you were saying, you're coming from a position of stability, and jumping out of this position into something of instability or potentially unknown is definitely a courageous act to be able to do. And I think I want to dive into a little bit about how you positioned yourself so that way you felt comfortable trying to making this transition out of the W-2 into this investing role.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the fact is, when it comes time to do this, you have to make sure that all the ducks are in a row, right? So can we make this transition successfully? And what does it look like? Because like you said, there's a lot of uncertainty going forward. So I guess for us, it is, do we have the sort of like ongoing finances to keep us above water? And for me, when I was 28, right, so I had been in the medical physics career for just a few years, I realized, as much as I like this, Kris, it's got to change. I doing the W-2, doing the 40, 50 hours a week, not not as much vacation as I would have preferred. I just don't think I can do this. So here I'm gonna create a plan, and in 10 years I hope to replace my salary, right? And so I've sort of projected, okay, in 10 years I'll be 38. I'm 37 right now, and I'll be 38 in 10 years, and I'd like to replace my salary, which I think will be $150,000, right? And so how do I get there? And so my thought was, I think we can make a 20% cash on cash return in our investments. Whether that's true or not over the years, I'll sort of withhold that. But so I thought, okay, if I have 750K of assets that are producing me 20%, there we go. So that's just my plan. And it turns out that things change, right? And maybe the returns aren't as good, or maybe they're better. But anyway, we'll be there. And so that's the financial piece that's there. Of course, there's always a struggle, or at least there's been a struggle on my side of this identity piece, right? Having spent a career now 10 years or more as a medical physicist, volunteering for large organizations, for the American Board of Radiology, for the American Association of Physicists in Medicine, and being in committees and being hands-on with it, it's hard to make that shift. But I think over the next couple of years, starting really next month, I'll be dropping the time commitment that I'm putting towards the work that I'm doing now. I work for a startup called Radformation that focuses on automation software for radiation oncology. So stepping down, I think a little bit at a time, so that I can. So in the days off, I can sort of cultivate some new habits and sort of dive a little bit deeper into the things that I'd like to do. So that's the plan for now.
That's awesome. So if I'm understanding this right, you had this plan almost for the past 10 years. This has been like a 10-year trajectory for you, starting back when you were 28 years old, now going on 37, almost 38. You're in this position where you kind of had that foresight back in when you were 20 years old to make this plan for yourself, execute it, and now you're in a position where you can actually take a step back from that W-2 to pursue something different. I guess in this case, how did you go about determining real estate was going to be the asset class of choice in order to help you achieve this goal back then?
That's a great question, yeah, Kris, because there's a lot of vehicles for investing, and I guess I was exposed to a lot of different options as a kid. My family, my dad really was. I didn't know he was a real estate investor at the time, but because I just figured he does stuff during the day, and I'm not sure. It wasn't a job. My dad never had a job, but in the end, he lived on the river on several acres in Montana, so he had to be doing something right, not having a job. And so, as a kid, I guess I saw this, and I helped with various flip projects. But also he exposed me to the stock market too. We ended up committing a lot of the lawnmower money to investing in the stock market. And to be honest with you, I mean, it was a great incentive. It was a really great way for me to get involved. My dad would match any money that we would put in. So what a great way to get a teenager to save and invest. Like, fantastic idea. But I in high school, that was kind of the dot-com boom and burst, and so I saw the volatility of the stock market, and to be honest with you, at that young age, it just turned me off. And I saw the consistent benefits to real estate, right? The consistent growth, rent growth, the tax benefits, the principal pay down. There's just so many ways logically that it just makes sense. And so when I started my W-2 in 2010, we immediately started saving to buy our first house, which was then a rental, and we bought another condo as a rental, and everything kind of snowballed from there.
That's amazing. And how lucky of you to be in a position where your father was actually doing these things. And you said he wasn't actually working a traditional job. He was primarily out going fishing or out doing some other extracurricular thing. And he was being funded through the various real estate projects that he had going on at the time. And so you had this opportunity to compare and contrast the performance of the stock market relative to your real estate assets that you guys were running at the time. And you noticed that sort of consistency that was there. Now, fast forward 10 years, you had mentioned not only did you have to position yourself financially, but now you also had a shift in your mindset in order to finally say, look, it's time to make a change. What was that process like, and how did you transition from the identity standpoint into becoming what you formerly were to what you are now?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's that honestly has been the most difficult, right? The shift. And I think it sort of hit me a couple years ago, not a couple years ago, like 6 months or a year ago. Hey, that 38th birthday is coming up. What does that mean, right? What does that mean to those goals that you set earlier? And if you're going to be true to yourself, you need to get on that. And so, as a part of that, I think I had seen some successes from other friends in the industry that have had good luck with one-on-one mentors. So I signed up for a mindset coach, and that has helped kind of urge me right to move forward. And so together with the life coach, we sort of put plans in place to sort of just sketch out what does it look like, and how can you feel more mentally prepared. And look, if you wait for one day, if you try to make a plan, you're gonna be in a better spot. If you just try to go willy nilly and just jump off the diving board, it may not be as successful. So I really just wanted to create something that I think would help me with the transition over time, because this is something that just a heartbreak wouldn't quite work for me. And so we wanted to say, okay, well, what are our assets now? What are our cash flows now? Where do they need to be? Where do we want them to be in 5 years? And then so what's the plan then, for us stepping down? And so that's why I wanted to drop down in time. And I think next year might be another day, or it might just be, if we decide that we feel comfortable at that point sometime next year, then we can just stop, right? So it's kind of a bit of a give and take, and I'm to be honest, just feeling it out, as it goes, because I do really enjoy my W-2. I've got a great job, and I enjoy it. And like I said, there's a bit of community aspect to it, and it's been fulfilling. So yeah, I'm feeling it out, doing what's right, and as long as I'm enjoying life, I'll do whatever I need to do.
I love that, Tyler. And here's the thing that I've noticed is once most people get into a position where they can step down from their W-2, a lot of times they don't step down completely. What they end up doing is they're able to achieve this sort of balance in their life that allows them to work on their own terms and have the lifestyle flexibility and, more importantly, the choice to work as opposed to the
Sure.
obligation to go to work. And that's a really powerful thing. And it sounds like both you and your spouse and your family, and when you guys all work together to get yourself in this type of position, it's really going to be paying off in terms of like being able to have much more meaning in the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, right? You were talking about mindset earlier. The mindset is completely different when you know that there's safety if you need it, right? So if something comes up at work and it doesn't seem palatable, I mean, not that you have to say no. I want to be a good coworker, right? I want to be supportive to all of my colleagues and to the business. But at the same time, if something gets dicey, I just don't have to worry. I don't have to comply with everything necessarily, right? I can sort of make my own decisions based on the current conditions, which are yeah. So anyway, we put ourselves in a good position, like you say, to sort of yeah, be choosy about what we want in our lives and be intentional about how we want to live it.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Now that you're in a position to do this, you took a step back from your W-2 and you're transitioning to a different form of work. Can you kind of describe the reason behind transitioning to this type of work? Does it inspire you? Is it something that you always felt that you wanted to try out? I guess, what does this position look like that's different from your current W-2?
Yeah, sure. Well, Kris, to be honest with you, I don't know what's next. I just know that I would like a little bit more time for myself. The one thing about working a full-time job is that there isn't enough time to do the things that are recommended to do in life, right? This is, and so time to exercise regularly, time to cook well and eat well, right? Time to take care of your mind, and right, so to meditate and to relax. time to spend with your family, time to spend like with extended family as well that may live elsewhere. So there's a lot of things that I'd like to do more in my life and work less. I feel like that's the only lever that I can kind of dial back in order to extend those things. Because let's be real, in a even with a great set of benefits package, you may get 4, 5, 6 weeks of vacation, and if you really want to maximize that. You may, I mean, 6 weeks with family just isn't enough, right? To me. And so I feel like that's kind of the first step. But of course, real estate investing is fun. Projects are fun. It's great to see how your sort of mental image or a dream that you have for a certain place can manifest over time. And so it's great to see the impact that you can have. It's very visible, right? It's very concrete how things can change from in a rehab, right? The before and afters are quite compelling, and so it's great to see how we can have an impact on the local community and provide safe and clean housing for folks that need it.
I love that. And so at this point in time, we've kind of dived into a couple things, right? So we've dived into your trajectory and how you kind of planned out your 10 years starting at the age of 28, how you've kind of made that transition both financially as well as mentally in terms of getting yourself confident enough to be able to say, like, look, I think it's time we can actually take an ability to step back. As far as the investing component to it, what does that kind of look like from your real estate portfolio? Like, are you guys doing fix and flips? Are you guys doing buy and hold? Are you focusing on specific types of real estate assets? What does that kind of look like for us?
Yeah, sure. We have not been so much into the flip side of it. What we found is that turning houses to sell is a real job. I mean, so I guess I'd never wanted to make the transition into flipping because it's really just another job, and it may pay the bills quite well, but when you want to stop, it doesn't keep up with cash flow and creating equity. So we've sort of had the focus on buying and holding, right? So yes, we've bought disenfranchised places, added some value, and have held. So that's been great for us because we've been able to buy low, rehab, create a lot of value, and then cash flow those units for a long time. So right now, our portfolio is around 30 units. Most of them are multifamily units, and then we have 2 Airbnbs, one that is in our basement and pays our mortgage, which is fantastic. We've been able to house hack in that way. And then another is kind of a vacation home that is about an hour away on the Hood Canal. It's great. It's fantastic. And we bought it as a vacation home so we can spend weekends and summers there. And the Airbnb component just allows us to, just earn income on it. And so we can have a vacation home without paying for it.
That's amazing. So you're hacking your personal residence and you're hacking your secondary vacation home as well. I love that.
Yeah, let's get more, Kris. I actually
Yeah.
we were in the process of looking for another vacation home in sort of like the Southwest United States. I'll tell you, in the Pacific Northwest, it rains a lot. And around January, February, we need a break. And so we typically go to Hawaii or Phoenix, or we're going to go to Mexico in January. But to have a place that we can kind of call a second home in California or Arizona. So we're on the hunt. We just fell under we just went under contract with a place that didn't work out, but we're looking for more places, and if we can sort of rinse and repeat, it'd be great to have a few family houses to enjoy.
That's awesome. I love that. So obviously there's a little bit of a management component to this, right? You said you have some multifamily properties, you have around 30 units in addition to 2 Airbnbs. Airbnbs can tend to be a little bit more involved as opposed to a typical buy and hold with long-term tenants. But in terms of time flexibility standpoint, you had mentioned you wanted to make sure you didn't have a second job for yourself. So how did you guys kind of systematize your management component to your real estate assets so that way you can maximize the time doing the things that actually you want to do?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't know that we fully have yet, Kris, but that's the plan. And so on the Airbnb side, my wife loves doing it and really enjoys it. And as we stack those units, if we do on the Airbnb side, that's where we end up going. There's a lot of different automation tools that can be used, and so that's sort of where we're going with that. And then with the other multifamily units, some of them that are far away, and by far away, I'm kind of a pansy in this regard. We've got some units down about a half an hour away from us, and that's just too far for me to do. So we have delegated property management for that, and I would like to do that with all of our multifamily units so that we can continue to scale or continue to do these things. Because even with 20 units, that's plenty to get the calls or the turnovers or the rehabs. So part of that I enjoy. So we'll see what the percentages that we keep and what we delegate. But at the moment, we have a 12-plex that we are rehabbing, redoing siding, redoing all the roofs, redoing all the units so that we can pass that off. So that's very much in transition. But over the course of the next year, that should be finished and we can pass that on to traditional management as well.
That's awesome, man. And it sounds like you guys kind of have the intention of being able to kind of scale back and systematizing these things more fully, especially as you continue to scale.
And we've had the benefit of time too, Kris, because if you buy something 5 years ago, as much as the real estate market has boomed and rents have gone up, we've where we maybe haven't worked in property management costs into the calculations, they're there now, right? So we're able to kind of do that. So I mean, we've been a little bit lucky. I have to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. Well, you know what they say, the best time to buy real estate was yesterday. Next time, best time. Oh, I think I totally butchered that. I think they said the best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago. The next best time to buy it is today. So you don't wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait. And that's a true component to it right there.
Sure.
All right, folks. So we're coming towards the end of today's show. But before we finish, it is time for the Freedom Five. These are 5 questions that we ask every guest on our show, starting with the most important question. What is your why? What is the underlying motivation behind everything is that you do?
I know that there are more insightful answers, but Kris, I'm a bit selfish, right? I was, as I mentioned before, I was in that W-2 job, and I just noticed that as much as I like what the process is, like the job, the application of physics to medicine, it's great. I love serving patients in this way, but it's the means of getting there. It's the method, right? It's the full-time work. It's the commitment that maybe I don't want to make. So it was a bit selfish in that way. I wanted more freedom for myself. And of course, now I've got a family and so it's a little bit of a different why now. So initially it was a bit selfish. Now I want to be able to spend time with, my aging parents, with my young children. And so how can I do that in the best way possible to still have something rewarding for work, which is real estate investing, and maybe it's part-time in medical physics, but then have that time freedom.
Love that. The second question we have is, what book has had the largest influence in your life?
This is going to sound like a broken record, but when I was in high school, I was gifted the book by Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and read it cover to cover. It did not take long. It's a book that absorbs you, and that sort of, along with the lessons from my father, kind of just reinforced in me that the way to build wealth was through cash flowing assets, right? Buying assets, not buying liabilities. And, so there's some fiction books that I love too. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is probably my favorite book. But in terms of, your audience here, I think that if you haven't read it, and it's a book that I've gifted to some other young cousins and nephews and things like that, because it is so galvanizing to read that book and realize what, the best way to go about things.
It's called the Purple Bible for a reason. The amount of impact that's had on people is huge.
Yes.
And speaking of impact, the third question we have here, what is the most impactful thing, a piece of technology, a habit, or a person that has helped you in freeing up your time?
Yeah, so this one's actually not technology at all. This one is a habit for sure. I've been meditating for a long time. I think meditation has over the years given me so much additional time. And obviously it's not giving me 26 hours in the day, but having a daily practice has allowed me to sort of approach time a bit differently and be more present. And I can tell you that having 3 hours where you're not present at all isn't really 3 hours. So you can have, if you have a half an hour where you're completely present and you're 100% there, I mean, it's a better feeling than having, 3 hours. So I don't know. I think, having, this was something I was introduced in high school as well, meditation. And I've been doing ever since I started working, been trying to do a daily practice, and it's centering, it's calming. And to me, it provides the time that I need.
I love that. And, I always hear people say that like time goes faster as you age. And I almost wonder if it's just because the amount of responsibilities and the amount of things that get added onto your plate as you continue to grow older, right? Like, when you're young, you don't have very many things that you need to be worrying about. And so every day you are truly present in the moment, being able to enjoy every single second of that day. And as you grow older, suddenly start having a job, that takes 8 hours out of your day. You got to come home. You got to worry about cooking meals for your own as opposed to someone else cooking them for you. And,
Sure.
all of these different things, bills, utilities, adulting, right? And those distractions, I wonder if that has something to do with the fact that like people perceive time as going by faster. That's just kind of a thought that came to my mind when you said that.
Yeah, sure. We have a lot as adults to deal with, right? And I think, I mean, as bad as COVID was, I think a lot of us had a bit of a sigh of relief when things slowed down and we didn't have as many obligations. We didn't have as many work trips. Taking that time to just, I don't know, de-stress, to relax, it really it affects the way you approach the day.
Absolutely. Number 4, what is the number one piece of advice you would give to anyone looking to achieve more control over their time?
Well, I can say this because our plan has been successful. Creating a plan, right? If you want to get from A to B, you have to have a plan to get from A to B. We all want to be somewhere better, more relaxing. We want to have more money, right? We want to have more time. Maybe we want to have that business or open that bookstore. We all have things that we want in our lives, but creating that plan for me was what worked. And so I think that for anyone that's interested in achieving a goal, creating a plan, a workable plan, and creating a network of support that can get you there. I had some mentors along the way that helped. I had obviously a good economy that brought us there too. But I think that plan is the most important aspect.
Absolutely. It's fail to plan is planning to fail, right? So as long as you have some sort of trajectory and a map on where you're going, then you can be most efficient with your time and achieving that goal.
Absolutely.
All right. The last question we have for you, Tyler, is what is the best way for our listeners to get in contact with you?
Sure. Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, Tyler Blackwell. You'll see I'm a medical physicist, so that's that one. And then you can always reach out to me on email, tylerblackwell@outlook.com. And so yeah, I look forward to hearing from you.
Absolutely. Well, Tyler, lots of really great information today. I really liked how you talked about your trajectory that you set forth for yourself in your 20s and now actually achieving that goal now that you're 10 years later in your 30s. I loved how you talked about the different ways you positioned yourself, both financially and from a mindset standpoint, so that way you can finally make the leap from the W-2. And also, I loved how you summarized that you really are doing this, one, selfishly for yourself so you can have more control over your time, but now also understanding that there are other important things in life, particularly when it relates to your family and your 3 kids. So I just want to thank you again for being a fantastic guest on our show, and I really look forward to remaining in touch.
Yeah, great. I look forward to all the future podcast episodes. You've had some great guests, and thank you for having me on.
Love it, man. Take care. Now, if you like this show and want to learn more about how we can help you free up your time through passive real estate investments, check out www.freedominvesting.com. Make sure to subscribe to our monthly newsletter and schedule an introductory call with our team. We also have a free 7-day course on what passive real estate investing is and how to get started so that you can start your journey towards earning back more time in your life. To all of our amazing listeners here on the Freedom Investing Podcast, my name is Kris Toribio. Till next time.